What have you made of his start? Already one defeat, drew at Stoke last weekend, but how have you found him as Roberto Mancini's replacement?
Well, I mean, I thought it was foolish to get rid of Roberto Mancini. I think it's a decision which will come back and haunt them. The guy had done, you know, people say that I could have managed that team with the amount of money he had to spend. Wrong. He had to convert the pressure and the expectation into trophies, and he did that. And even in a season when there was problems behind the scene, when he didn't get the players he should have done the summer before because of their transfer bungling, he still got to an FA Cup final and came second. And what Mancini had at City was an electricity. They say he didn't get, you know, the players he didn't get on with, right, were the players that weren't in the team every week. As Aguero said this week, he can't remember having a problem with them. Yaya Toure didn't have a problem with them. The big players didn't have a problem with them.
But don't they all say that? Yeah,
I know, but the stuff that was coming out in the wake of his departure was coming out from players who weren't, I believe, from players who weren't in his side all the time. All right, maybe he didn't get on with everyone. He had an abrasive style, but it was a style that drove the players on. It was a style that gave the club electricity. A lot of people behind the scenes didn't like him because the guy was just single-minded. He didn't want to shake hands with everybody when he went in the training ground. Now, I'm told Pellegrini is a lovely bloke, great. But the football so far, Newcastle aside, when they were fantastic, but Newcastle were in turmoil there because Cabaye said he wasn't playing as he came off the coach. But up until they played Pelton the other night, they were poor. They were poor. They were poor against Hull at home. They lost to Cardiff. They couldn't defend. He's trying to change things. Maybe he's got a project as well. But for me, you know, it's still early days. It's still early days. You can't judge the bloke. You can't be hard on the bloke. I just genuinely think they've made a mistake in getting rid of Mancini.
Yeah. What have you made of him so far, Sam? That Pellegrini's got a lot. He's got a lot to do. This idea that the holistic approach, the 5 trophies in 5 years as well. That's the target. That's the target for him. But memories of last season's game. They lost this, didn't they? Robin van Persie's goal in the last few minutes. That free kick.
Yeah, I think really, if you look at the whole package at City, so you look at, I was getting his pronunciation wrong, Bergisterain and Soriano.
Yeah.
This is the natural kind of succession for the kind of manager they want. I know he's not Spanish, he's Chilean, but he's Spanish speaking. Yeah. He's managed in Spain, and I think Neil's, you know, clearly very close to it and knows that there was friction with certain players. I think the biggest friction was with the hierarchy of the club between Mancini and those two kind of Spanish managers who the Spanish sort of director of football and chief executive. They've got their man now. They've got their holistic approach. Someone who will manage the club as they want. And it's a classic case of this new era of where basically the chief executives or the directors of football are effectively running the club, and the manager is subordinate to them. I would say that at Manchester United, that old structure is still very much in place. That David Moyes recruits, he makes the final decision on the players. Okay, he works with Ed Woodward, but Ed Woodward does the deal. Yeah, he does the coaching. So I think with City and United, looking at two very, very different, two new managers, but two completely different structures.
But the point Mancini made very early on, particularly after winning the title, was that to have control of the club, to have control of all aspects, was the way forward. So Alex Ferguson always said that. He said, when did it change? He said, with the first title, because then I had control. Then I had control over things.
When he won his first title.
Yeah, when he won his first title. And he says that's what a manager needs at the club. He doesn't need to be told by people above him who he should be buying, how they should be playing. I mean, these two guys came in and, you know, decided that everyone should play in the way of Barcelona. Well, OK, well, if you've got Xavi and Iniesta and Messi, I'm sure we can all do it. But unless you've got those players, you can't play like Barcelona.
But this is the new era. I mean, Pellegrini is the kind of coach who, I'm not even sure, does he want to be in charge of everything? I mean, you look at someone like Carlo Ancelotti, it's Parma, Juventus, Milan, Chelsea, PSG, Real Madrid. He turns up. You know, they buy the players from him. They're all brilliant players. He might win the league, he might not. If he gets sacked, he gets paid off and he just moves on to the next job. I mean, I think there's a lot of modern managers who, once you get on that, I hesitate to say gravy train, but that kind of... it's not a bad life, is it?
They just can think about, I've got to coach these players. These are the ones they've given me. I'll do the best with them.
Yeah, but is that ideal?
For many continental managers, it's the norm. It is what they're used to, and they don't have a problem with it because they've grown up with that environment. I mean, if you're Pellegrini, you've got no right to, and I'm sure he hasn't, but, you know, look at the players that he's been given in addition to those he inherited, with Navas and Fernandinho and Negredo and Jovetic. he's got no complaints. If it doesn't work this season, it's down to him, because those players should be good enough.
Mancini looked at Navas, said he's plenty of crosses, few of them turned into goals. Couldn't hit a barn door himself when he came to shooting from in front of goal.
He's going to get a hat-trick this time.
Well, I know. I just thought I said that. I'm going to be sat in that press box and go, "No, of course this." Fernandinho has started slowly. I'm sure he'll be good. But Gareth Barry, I mean, Gareth Barry was tremendous for me alongside Yaya Toure, and they've let him go. I just think the two guys wanted to stamp their authority on it, and I don't think Mancini had a particular issue with him. I think his issue was the previous summer when Brian Marwood couldn't convert couldn't get the players that he wanted, and he knew he needed 3 or 4 players in, because he knew that otherwise the players he had who won the title might just sit back, rest on the laurels.
If you don't move forward, you fall back. Simple as that.
It happened with Newcastle when they finished 5th. Didn't get new players in, nearly got relegated. He knew he needed that, and he knew what would happen. What happened would happen, but they didn't listen to him.
You're a big fan of Mancini, aren't you?
I am, yeah. And another thing, he was absolutely fantastic with the media. Yeah. He was good fun. He said things, and people criticise, say, "Oh, you can't criticise the players in public."
That's what we want.
Not? I mean, why not? Do you really? Manchester City fans, when I go and see them in my local after Man City games, they certainly criticise them.
They'll be buying you a drink after all this, I'm sure. But just a quick word, Martin. On the back page of the Daily Star this morning, Iniesta battle. That's Manchester United and City want to sign the Barcelona midfielder. Came on as a substitute in their 4-0 win.
If there's a manager in the world who doesn't want to sign Andres Iniesta, he shouldn't be a football manager.
Well, yeah,
it's as simple as that. I don't believe that Barcelona will let him go, I have to say. There's a little bit of contract negotiation by agent, I suspect.
Yeah, but the kind of player that both clubs would love to have in their team.
Fantastic player. Beautiful passer, gorgeous player.
He's the kind of player who becomes available if he does once in a lifetime. You've got to go. He's like Van Persie, you know. You have to go and get him.
You have to go and get him. OK, we'll keep an eye on that one. Sunderland lost again, though.